How's it going, guys? So what I'm doing here is I have my existing 8-foot SUP board, and what I'm doing here is I'm adding in another Futures strong box up from the rear fin. And what this is for is I'm going to have this box so I can use it to install a centerboard. I'm learning how to foil, and part of that is I'm still learning how to use a surf wing. I realized very quickly that I can't go upwind very well on this board. I've been out playing around with the wing. It's been a blast, a lot of fun. Like, highly recommend it. But I haven't been able to go upwind, and the key thing is having apparently a centerboard helps you do that. Whereas in a hydrofoil, you have the mast, you have the foil, that helps you go upwind. I'm just gonna do that, and then I'm gonna make my own dagger board from plywood, and I'm gonna glue it up, and hopefully that will help me go upwind. So to install the Future Strong Box is pretty simple. I use my 3D printed router jigs, and I routed out the slot. If you're curious and you want these template files, these STL files, you can just hop on my website, link down in the description below. So anyways, I routed them out, and here I'm just sealing the foam before installing the fin box. I'm mixing up some epoxy. Now normally I would thicken it with some Cabosil so it's nice and thick and it doesn't seep into the foam too much, because this foam is pretty porous. But that's why I sealed it first, because I ran out of Cabosil and I had some on order. Here now I'm just going to seat the fin box in. These are little pieces of 3D printed plastic that I use to keep the fin box spaced, and then I add some weight here to keep it weighed down. Okay, here I'm mixing up some epoxy with some Cabosil that arrived, and I'm going to use it to fill in the rest of the fin box. Here I'm using my oscillating sander and a vacuum just to roughen up around the fin box. Mix up some more epoxy. I've already pre-cut some 6-ounce fiberglass that I'm laying over the flange of the fin box, so this will just provide some added strength for the fin box. And I'm just going to pour the epoxy over the fiberglass. And then I'll take a spreader or a squeegee and I'll spread it all out, let it absorb into the fiberglass cloth. And once it absorbs in, I can kind of just gingerly start spreading it out. I tried to avoid it pooling in the very center of the fin box, obviously, because there's an open slot for the fin. But it's quite okay. You do want to get epoxy saturated in the center too. You just don't want it to pool there, or else it might fill up or drip into the slot. And I did put some tape on the inside. You can see it there, the blue tape, just to prevent any epoxy from accumulating. For whatever reason, I didn't have any footage of me sanding the fiberglass cloth, blending it in with the rest of the board, but that's all I did. I took my oscillating tool and did that. And now what I'm doing is I mixed up some more epoxy, and I'm just taking a foam brush and just putting it on top of the laminated fiberglass. I'm not too concerned about blending it super well or making it look really pretty, because I just want this to be functional, but I think it looks pretty good. Okay, after the epoxy hardened overnight, I drilled a hole. This here's a flush trim router bit, and I'm going to use that to open up the Finbox. And what's on the end of the flush trim router bit is a bearing that's the same size as the bit, and it rides up along the bottom of the Finbox. And then the top of it can cut whatever material, and in this case it's the laminated fiberglass. What I'm doing here is I'm just taking some plywood and going to make a centerboard. Incidentally, I learned what the difference between a centerboard is and a dagger board. A centerboard is essentially a big keel, and a dagger board is a subset of a centerboard, which, as the name implies, it's like a dagger, so it moves vertically up and down into whatever craft you have. So technically this is a centerboard, not a dagger board. So you could say all dagger boards are centerboards, but not all centerboards are dagger boards, I guess. Okay, here this is a sacrificial fin that I'm going to remove the top part of the fin, and I'm going to keep the base so I can attach it to the bottom of the wooden center fin that I've made. There, nice perfect fit. Pretty good. So I'm laminating with 6-ounce fiberglass. Now I'm using polyester fiberglass resin for this, and I normally work with epoxy. I don't work with this stuff that often, so I'm working with it outside because it is very stinky. It has a lot of VOCs. But one thing I do like about working with this stuff, it's so much more forgiving than epoxy. And I'm doing this because I wanted to get this done quickly, and I wasn't laminating foam, I was laminating wood. So this polyester resin has a tendency to eat EPS or XPS foam, aka styrofoam, whereas on wood it's perfectly fine. Now it's not going to be as durable as epoxy, but for a fin it's going to be perfectly acceptable. Not to mention just about every surfboard pre-2000s was made with polyester resin. Anyways, not too much to this. I made it a nice red color, pretty easy to laminate. Here I'm just trimming it with a pair of scissors to get rid of the excess, and then I'm just gonna probably sand it and then put another gel coat on top of the lamination layer here to make it look nice and also make it more watertight. So this is what you'd probably call a hot coat. And there we go, the finished centerboard. So let's take it out for a test ride. So this is a surf wing that I got off of AliExpress, and I've been having a lot of fun with it, as I mentioned earlier. But definitely going upwind without the centerboard was definitely a lot more difficult, but now I've had it out a few times with the centerboard, and it's just a night and day. It's just so much easier. I don't have to lean on the back of the board and really dig the rail in to try to go upwind. With the centerboard, I can just really just use the wing. I can keep the wing forward to turn Now with the centerboard, if I want to go upwind, I can basically stay in the center of the paddleboard. I just need to put a little bit of weight on, in this case, the right hand side of the board, and then just take the surf wing and just kind of move it back a little ways and kind of feather it a little bit. You can see some ocean swell here. I am in the ocean, but I'm having no problems going upwind. You can see just by the way the little waves are being blown, it was an offshore day, but I had no problem getting back on shore. You can see I'm getting moving at a pretty good clip here. Oh, incidentally, you'll notice I have a paddle strapped to the SUP. That is just so I can do a self-rescue. It's so much easier than trying to paddle with my arms. But I've gotten to the point now where I've been out enough times that I know how the wing works and how to go upwind, that I don't need to use it anymore. Anyways, there you go. That's how I was able to go upwind by modifying my existing SUP. Not everyone's going to have this ability, but Slingshot does sell a centerboard that you can stick onto the bottom of your hard SUP, and you can totally use it to go upwind, which is kind of where I got the idea to modify my existing SUP to help me train to get used to using the surf wing. Next up, time to finish off my next foil board, and yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, you learned something, and I'm having a blast using this wing, and I will see you guys in the next one.